Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video on Outer Rim Media. Today, we are going to be doing a tier list ranking all of the Star Wars movies and TV show projects. So if you guys enjoy these kind of videos, hear my perspective and my breakdown on a lot of this content, make sure to let me know by leaving a like on the video and subscribe for more Star Wars content. Make sure to comment down below something else you want me to rank or see next. You see it on my shorts a lot, so we're going to do a long form content video here. If you enjoy it, let me know, and I'll see you guys in the video. Let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so here we are on tiermaker.com, one of the coolest websites of all time. We have, to my knowledge, I've read it through every single one of these very closely, every single Star Wars show and movie that has come out in recent years. And if I'm missing something, then I'm sorry, but I know for sure I have the major things. So we're going to go in order. This isn't in order of release date because some of the actual graphics on this specific tier were not updated, so I had to add them. So we're just going to go in order, though, of how they're already listed, and then we'll go from there. And so we are going to start with the original trilogy, prequel trilogy, some of the shows. Then we have more stuff that we'll cover here in the time being, but this is going to be really cool. I'm very excited. So let's dive in. Let's go ahead and do it. We've got the OG Star Wars. At the time, Star Wars, and then later it was confirmed it's A New Hope. And so this is what it's going to be. We're going to see how we can do this. I think there's no way you can't give this a high ranking, but just because there's so much content on here and we got to make sure we're balanced, we're going to give it a B. This is the first movie. This is what sets the tone for everything. And there's no way I want to undermine that at all. However, when you really see some of the other projects on here and you think about the true meaning of an S tier or an A tier ranking, you've got to give it its flowers appropriately by not putting things that are also S tier or A tier in there just because of nostalgia. So I'm going to put it in B tier. Star Wars A New Hope. Next, we have The Empire Strikes Back, Episode 5, and we are going to put this in A tier. I almost did S tier, but again, I want to really save S tier for some of the top films. I think this movie is great. Some people consider this the greatest Star Wars film of all time because of the big character drop of Luke finding out that Vader's his father, that iconic scene, some of the really cool moments of going off planet, seeing Hoth, Dagobah, which has Yoda introduced, and it's super, super cool. I think this is completely an A tier. The original trilogy itself is phenomenal. And you could easily, I think before you could argue Empire Strikes Back in S tier, there's a bigger argument for putting A New Hope in A tier. But we're going to put it in B tier, and we're going to put Empire Strikes Back in A tier. Next, we have Return of the Jedi. And Return of the Jedi is one of my favorites. So I've got to put it in S tier. It is just super cool. The Battle of Endor, the Tatooine with Jabba, and the Rancor battle. And then, of course, the big moment of destiny, Luke versus Darth Vader with Darth Sidious, the Emperor there. It is incredible. And it is the huge climax of the Skywalker saga. And when you watched it in the moment, it's an incredible finale of this trilogy that came out that time. But even after watching the prequels, it just means even more. Now, I do think some of the events of the sequel trilogy hurt the events of Return of the Jedi by how they perceived Luke Skywalker and a couple of the other characters, but you can't always control that. So I'm going to say, for what I believe, Return of the Jedi is one of the greatest Star Wars movies of all time, and it deserves to be in the S tier category. Now entering the age of the prequel trilogy, but before we do, I want to first address a show that did come out around that time. This is not necessarily in exact order, but we're going to go ahead and mention it. And that is the original Star Wars The Clone Wars. We're going to put Star Wars The Clone Wars in B tier. This one was really cool, and I really wish we could have gotten more of it. It has a lot of what is considered to be legends now, but it has a General Grievous before he is quote-unquote nerfed that you saw in Revenge of the Sith. He's actually introduced here before Revenge of the Sith comes out. You got to see really cool lightsaber battles. Asajj Ventress was a character introduced during this series. You've got to see time jumps leading all the way up to episode 3. And it's pretty much like a speedrun moment of the Clone Wars. It has really unique action scenes, characters, and art. I love the persona that it gave the clones, almost being like we don't speak, super top secret troopers in a way. And I love that scene where like the ARC troopers are going in and raiding the city. It's an incredible show. Really awesome. Mace Windu and Yoda look awesome in the show, and they have really cool action scenes. However, you didn't get a lot of it. The graphics were, I guess, a little bit dated. The Clone Wars show that came out later looks better, but this one is still very good and it deserves to be in B tier. Now we're going to start with the prequel trilogy movies, and we're going to go with the Phantom Menace. And I'm going to put the Phantom Menace, honestly, in A tier. I think this movie's phenomenal. Some people don't consider it as highly rated as I do, but I mean, you have the introduction of Anakin. You get to see Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan as a young Padawan. You get to see the Republic in a really cool age. Darth Maul, especially when you count the context of just how they presented him for the first time at that current state of time, it is incredible. He was menacing. You knew that Maul was the bad guy. It also introduced one of the most iconic sounds in Star Wars, I guess, like scores, you would say. Duel of Fates, seeing that lightsaber fight was incredible. It was that first fight of the new era, the new trilogy, and it was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. Everything that was at stake with Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan versus Maul, the stake and the weight of Anakin's fate, it was incredible. Absolutely phenomenal. And so it's definitely going to be an A tier for me. Next, we have Attack of the Clones. And this one is a little bit of a hot take for me. I'm not a hater by any means. I don't even hate on the sequel trilogy. I just don't like it, but I don't sit here and hate on it. But when we get to Attack of the Clones, I think everything from the Geonosian arena on is super awesome. And I think there's moments of cool before. I understand the need for Padme and Anakin's relationship to be built, so you really understand the weight of it. However, I still think you could have been a little bit more effective with it and a little bit faster. It was very slow pace. Even Obi-Wan walking around Kamino, multiple scenes where you just see him walking and listening and you're gathering information. I get it's important for the story, but I got bored for a little bit of it. So I'm going to put Attack of the Clones in C tier. It is one of my least favorite Star Wars movies, especially the original trilogy and prequel trilogy combined. But it's super cool. It has moments. It's not even close to D tier, but it does deserve C tier, I think, especially with considering what I'm going to be putting in B tier. Next, we have Revenge of the Sith, and I think there's no question about it. This is an S tier. Again, I know there's similar aspects of Attack of the Clones where there's some really awkward dialogue, maybe considered cheesy in some ways, but it just carries so much. Seeing all these really cool moments. I enjoyed, even at the time, seeing the CGI clones. They looked awesome. I enjoyed the fight between Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Count Dooku on the ship. I enjoyed seeing Obi-Wan versus General Grievous. I enjoyed seeing Anakin and, of course, Obi-Wan in the final battle, one of the coolest scenes, but even so many other ones. Palpatine versus Mace Windu, Palpatine versus Yoda. This is an action-packed movie, and this is awesome. Super cool, and it sets up everything. It ties everything together to the original trilogy that we are used to seeing, and so it is definitely S tier for sure. No doubt about it. Now we have this TV show. We have 2 runs on TV shows. We got the Star Wars, the Clone Wars TV show, and as an entire whole, this is a really challenging bait because there are individual arcs in Star Wars, the Clone Wars that make this, that have incredible storylines. Siege of Mandalore, Umbara. I enjoy the ARC Trooper line. I enjoy the line where they're the clone cadets and they're in training and you see about Domino Squad. There are so many incredible arcs. The Citadel arc's one I enjoy, but there are some that just aren't S tier quality. We have to be honest. They're good, but they're not S tier quality. So I'm going to put Star Wars: The Clone Wars in A tier. I still think this is incredibly respectful. And I think if you take out some of the filler episodes, then it is an S tier for sure. No doubt about it. It's close. And I think on the right day, you could convince me that Star Wars: The Clone Wars is an S tier show. But today, thinking about all the filler episodes, even in season 7, we couldn't escape it with the sisters arc. I mean, nobody cared about that. No disrespect. But the Siege of Mandalore is flawless. And so there is S tier quality content in the show, but as a whole, you got to give it A tier. And I still think that's a very, very good rating. And there's no it was never even close to B tier. It was A tier, S tier for sure. We're going to put it in A tier on this list. Next, we have Star Wars Rebels, and I'm going to give it the exact same rating as Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I have to confess something to you guys. I slept on Star Wars Rebels whenever you were watching it season 1. I thought it was very slow. I didn't really enjoy the new lightsaber graphic design that they had, or even some of the characters at the first. But then some people think this was cheesy. I think it was genius. When you started bringing characters that were already introduced prior, Ahsoka, Captain Rex, Darth Maul, and then Legends characters making their debut in, I guess, canon Star Wars media Admiral Thrawn. These are just things that are insanely awesome. And so Star Wars Rebels had a really slow start for me. I mean, I even had a hard time caring about the Inquisitor, the Grand Inquisitor battle between Kanan and him early on in season 1 or at the end of season 1. However, seasons 2, season 3, season 4, peak content, phenomenal. It was insane. And it was definitely something that is great content. The characters that we were introduced to, the arc about Maul, and then my favorite sequence of the entire show was the twin sons battle between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul. It was phenomenal. So this show is definitely going to be an A tier. Continuing on, we are now entering the sequel trilogy era, and we have a lot more content to go. We're going in order, I guess, of release, roughly, not perfectly, but we have the sequel trilogy movies. We have The Force Awakens, and I'm going to put The Force Awakens in B tier. I think that what they built in episode 7, The Force Awakens, had the potential to be something incredible. We're introduced to characters like Finn and Poe, who I thought were great additions to the Star Wars universe. I even enjoyed Kylo Ren and Ben Solo and the whole character arc that they had there. I enjoyed seeing that with Han Solo. I wish Han would not have died. I would have loved to have seen him, Leia, and Luke all on the screen at the same time. Again, that would have just been peak nostalgia, but I really enjoyed it. Rey is not a character that I despise by any means. I was burned whenever all the promo and media, literally the graphic here as well, shows Rey with a staff and Finn with a lightsaber. So they very much promoted that Finn would potentially be the Jedi, which I was excited for. And then you find out it isn't him. And that just kind of gave me like a natural resentment to Rey. I'm not a Rey hater, but I just think that it really rubbed me wrong. So I enjoyed what they set up. Many people say it's just a New Hope reskinned, and honestly, who cares? Because it was a decent story. I enjoyed it, and it set up something big. So The Force Awakens is definitely B tier. I mean, on a bad day, be C tier. It's not close to A tier, but it is in B tier for sure. Next, we got Star Wars Rogue One, and this is S tier. This was so incredible. The action in this movie, introducing ourselves to new characters, specifically Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor, were huge additions to this show. But even just director Krennic, man, he's so cool. And I just enjoyed it all together. It was intense. The action was insane. The battle on Scarif was awesome. The whole arc about the Urso building the Death Star, building a flaw so that the Rebel Alliance could be able to have it and they could defeat the Empire. That's awesome. And it takes something that was such a small detail in A New Hope when they get the plans and they know about it. And like, you take something so small and make an entire story about it, and it's just awesome. And then one of the greatest scenes in Star Wars history, the Vader hallway scene, that was peak cinema. That was peak Vader. And so it was phenomenal. Rogue One is perfect. There are no flaws at all. Point blank, period. Next, we have Star Wars The Last Jedi. And before I show my ranking, I want to preface that there are really cool action scenes, at least looking cool. The vibrant colors, the space scenes, it looks cool in these prequel or sequel trilogy movies. But we're going to put The Last Jedi in D tier. And the reason for this is for multiple reasons. The whole Luke Skywalker arc, where he is not interested in training Rey, he shut himself off from the Force. You heard my rant earlier about how I love Luke, and Return of the Jedi is one of my favorite movies. They don't add up. I don't try to be a hater, but they don't add up. That Luke becoming the Luke that we see in The Last Jedi. I don't think Luke would kill Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, when he sensed that darkness in him. I just don't think that's something he would do. And so I think it's just a lot of baloney. I didn't like that they switched directors and brought in Rian Johnson. I don't dislike Rian Johnson. He's made some incredible movies. However, I don't like how he took a whole different direction than what was kind of established in episode 7. And I think that is one of the reasons episode 9 struggled as well, is because of that, having to make up for those mistakes. So it has some very visually appealing moments in the movie, but it's D tier. It's not good. Next, we have Solo: A Star Wars Story, and I'm going to put it in C tier. I wasn't a big fan of it just because I felt like we didn't need it. I felt like if you were going to make another Star Wars story after Rogue One, two things. One, it had to be a character that everyone has been asking for more content on. And two, it had to be a jaw on the floor story because of what you got with Rogue One. You're having to follow up Rogue One, which is insane. I think I love Han Solo. I genuinely love Han Solo. But I don't think everybody was asking for a prequel story for him leading into episode 4. And also, I don't think that it was a great story in general. It didn't make you care a lot. One thing that I loved about his relationship with Leia in the original trilogy was that it looked like he had just been alone his whole life, a playboy, as you would say, not really in it for love. So then to see that he has a love and then it's kind of lost and then he finds Leia again, I don't know, it just feels a little different. But I enjoyed some of the things introduced. I love Darth Maul's cameo at the end. I enjoyed the whole idea of the Crimson Dawn, how it's still kind of playing active to this day. And it was fun. It was good enough. It's in C tier. I thought about D tier. It's not B tier. C tier is pretty perfect for this movie. Next, we're in Star Wars Resistance, and I'm going to just have to put in D tier. This was not cool. It was not fun. They struck gold with the Clone Wars. They struck gold with Rebels. Star Wars Resistance did not. They tried again to make an animated show in the sequel era, and it just failed. And it's okay. It's okay to say it failed. And so we're going to have to put it in D tier. It's not good. Point blank period. We're going to move on. Next, we have Star Wars The Mandalorian. And this is absolutely phenomenal. This is great. And you know what? We're going to put it in S tier. I really considered putting it in A tier because of season 3 with some of the corny story arcs that we had. Some of the episodes where you're like, this is just really random. Why are we wasting time and money and resources to make this kind of episode? But you just cannot drop it any lower when you recognize how flawless season 1 and 2 were. The shot of him reaching his hand to Grogu when he first sees Grogu in season 1, episode 1, that is insanely awesome. I love the action scenes and the intensity that you have in season 1. And then season 2 was incredible. The introduction of Ahsoka into live action was super awesome and kind of unexpected at the time until you started hearing the rumors. Boba Fett returns, and the book of Boba Fett might not be great, but Boba Fett in The Mandalorian season 2 were phenomenal. Seeing the story arc where Bill Burr's character was here was phenomenal, and I loved watching Din Djarin have to he really showed how much he cares for Grogu, taking off his mask, going undercover in that way to save Grogu, and then of course the peak scene, a scene that rivals Rogue One Vader scene, is Luke Skywalker coming in the finale of season 2. When you hear that X-Wing coming through, you're like, oh my goodness, you recognize it. Nobody saw it coming. You're like, oh my goodness, is that what I think? And then you see him going through the hallway, the music, it was phenomenal. It was peak. And I really thought season 3 kind of fumbled the bag a little bit to where I almost put this in A tier, but seeing and remembering that scene of Luke and how good season 2 was and how good season 1 was, it has to be an S tier. It is by far the best Star Wars live action show they've dropped. Next, we have The Rise of Skywalker, and I'm going to do something to kind of stay consistent with my takes. We're going to put The Rise of Skywalker in C tier, and the reason I'm going to do that is to more so really show how I feel about The Last Jedi. I feel like The Last Jedi set The Rise of Skywalker up to fail, and when they brought J.J. Abrams back to direct the finale, they had to kind of undo some of the stuff he was building towards and really reestablish. You see moments in The Last Jedi where you think Kylo's going to be good, and then they kind of undo it, and then they bring it back randomly. There was a lot of crazy stuff, but honestly, I don't hate The Rise of Skywalker. I don't love it. So I'm going to put it in C tier, and we're really just going to kind of leave it at that. Next, we have Star Wars The Bad Batch, and very similar to other shows, this one's got great episodes, but it also has some filler, and the filler that it does have at times are very annoying. I enjoyed seeing the clone arc of a lot of the clones coming back, Crosshair being exiled, turning on them, and then coming back into the mold. I enjoyed their relationship with Omega to a degree. There were sometimes I was a little annoyed by it. I think because of all these things, The Bad Batch is a really good B tier show. No one will deny that it's not on Clone Wars or Rebels level, so that means I don't need to put it on the same level as them. But it is a solid B tier. There was no consideration to make it into C tier. I enjoyed following them along, and especially seeing the finale that we got where there's been this jump in time in a way, and I just thought it was really good. A touching ending to a good Star Wars show. Next, we got the Book of Boba Fett, and I'm going to put it in C tier. I think we spent way too much time in the Book of Boba Fett talking about The Mandalorian setting up season 3. That was by far the best part of the show. There were really tacky scenes of the race scenes. I think there were some moments where it's like, all right, is this really worth it to really take this kind of approach to Boba Fett? I'm okay to make him more of an anti-hero where he actually is kind of a good guy. I enjoy that. But there was a lot of moments where it was really tacky, cheesy. And honestly, I might could do D tier if it wasn't for the Mandalorian scene and Cad Bane appearing in the show live action. So C tier is a very good spot for the Book of Boba Fett. Next, we have the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, and I think this show gets a lot more hate. It does have sequences very similar to the Book of Boba Fett where you're like, what the heck is going on? However, it is carried more so because, one, we love Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's incredible. There were some also cheesy moments where it's like, okay, how are these people surviving being stabbed so many times? I personally don't like that trend in Star Wars, how everybody's getting stabbed and everybody's surviving. However, again, it is overwhelmingly washed out by seeing the action scenes that we have, especially the fight at the end between Obi-Wan and Vader, but also seeing even like just Vader. Anything Vader is honestly really cool. Him collect the ship and rip the ship with the Force. That is one of the coolest things I've seen. So anything that's got Vader is going to be bumped up. And this show is not C tier or D tier. I think it is B tier. And if you had to say, it could potentially drop to C because of some of the scenes, but I enjoyed it. And I think it needs to be in B tier. Now we come to Star Wars Andor S tier. There's no question about it. If there was one show that could rival The Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2, it would be season 1 and 2 of Andor. And you could honestly even argue Andor is better overall just because of the misses that we had in Star Wars Mandalorian season 3. Andor had 0 misses. This show was phenomenal from start to finish, season 1 and 2, and it is peak awesome, phenomenal, right there at the very top of the list. It deserves to be an S tier, no question about it. The action was insane. Andor was insane. It was just good all around. Next, we have Tales of the Jedi, and of all the tales, I'm gonna say that this one's the best one, in my opinion. This one's gonna go in A tier. I enjoyed seeing Ahsoka's story and seeing how we kind of got her to be where she's at a little bit, her origin story, but also there was that episode where you kind of see where she's at afterwards. And what I think carried it was the arc where we got to see Count Dooku. You get to see Count Dooku on a mission with Mace Windu. You get to see him with his Padawan Qui-Gon. So we get to see Qui-Gon at a young age. And then the big fight scene between him and Yaddle because of his turn to the dark side. Getting to see those in like behind the scenes moments are things I've always wondered. How did Count Dooku take the loss of Qui-Gon, knowing that he was still on the Jedi Order during the events of Phantom Menace? That's cool. And so we got to see that. It looks good as always, but this animation style. And so I think Tales of the Jedi deserves to be an A tier. I really do. You could do B tier. I wouldn't think that's a bad take. It's not C tier or D tier by any means. Now with Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures, we have our first never watched on the list. I just think, I don't have to explain why I've never watched it. So we're just going to move on really quickly. But yeah, I've never watched it. Probably never will watch it. Next, we have the Ahsoka live action show. And I'm going to put this was a really hard decision because of, again, trying to be consistent with my list. I'm going to put it in B tier. I think there were, of course, some moments where it's a little cheesy. I think some of the action scenes of all things were actually cheesy, but it is definitely B tier. I do think some of the elements of the story were rocky at times. Baylan Skoll wasn't phenomenal. Rest in peace, Ray Stevenson. I enjoy seeing Ezra again. You are met with some of that cheesy stuff of how is Sabine stabbed and somehow still alive. And I'm also not the biggest fan of her, I guess, Jedi arc. I don't know, of Ahsoka training her. I wasn't a big fan of a lot of that. But of all the other elements of the show, seeing a live action Hayden Christensen come back as Anakin Skywalker, that is phenomenal. And it kept it in B tier. So there are a lot of C tier moments in this show, but there are a lot of A tier moments, if we're being honest, in this show. So we're going to be in the middle and put it in B tier. Next, we have Tales of the Empire, and I'm going to put Tales of the Empire in D tier. I didn't think it was interesting at all. The coolest thing was seeing General Grievous attack the Night Sisters and kind of wipe them out, that we know happened. I don't really care for her story, and I don't even care for Barriss Offee's story. And so I just think it needs to be in D tier. It wasn't that good. And yeah, another D tier show is The Acolyte. You can say I'm sexist, I'm racist, whatever. I don't care. The Acolyte was trash. It was not good at all. And I think that it has really good action scenes. I don't deny that. But it was so inconsistent with the inconsistencies that it had leading into the Phantom Menace, the contradictions that it had. Ki-Adi Mundi not even supposed to have been alive. A Jedi not supposed to have seen a Sith in thousands of years, and in 100 years prior, there is a Sith that killed multiple Jedi. No one's talking about it, and then them acting like they're going to cover it up. I wasn't a big fan of them portraying the Jedi as almost the bad guys and other people being the victims. And so that just doesn't match up with the Jedi name that George Lucas establishes. They're not perfect by any means, but I just wasn't a big fan of it. I thought it was terrible, absolutely terrible. And I'm glad that it got canceled for no second season. Them trying to throw Plagueis in there didn't work. They wasted it. And so it just shows that Star Wars wasn't a rocky place. I think we're coming back from that. I think it deserves no grace. It's trash. So I almost made an F tier just for the Acolyte. Next, we have Skeleton Crew. And I think that this is an underrated story. I think that it is something that a lot of people overlooked. It was really good, in my opinion. I don't remember it as much. I watched it one time and never went back to it. So I'm going to put it in B tier. I think it is just forgotten, not seen, paid attention to as much because you kind of take it on as a kid's show. But honestly, it's still really good. And I think a lot of people would enjoy watching it. So if you haven't watched it, you need to go watch it. Now we're getting to the final three of our list. And again, they're not in exact order of release because I know one came out before the other. So we're going to go ahead and just do the middle one since I know it came out the latest of these three. And that's Tales of the Underworld. And I'm going to put it in B tier. I did not really love following Ventress's story as much, but I did enjoy watching Cad Bane's story. And so I think just seeing Ventress, this could be a C tier, but I enjoyed seeing Cad Bane's origin. And so we're going to put it in B tier for that. It was really, really good in my opinion. And so I love Cad Bane. And so seeing him young, kind of see how he led to this life, big fan. And I didn't hate the Ventress storyline too, which is why it's also in B tier, but I definitely love Bane's more. Next, we have Maul Shadow Lord, and I'm going to put it in A tier. I think the combat was phenomenal. The artwork for the lightsabers it was beautiful. And I think a lot of people are considered some of the best animation that they've shown, and I think that's very true. I do think there were some weird spots of the story, and I don't know. I think it is definitely close to, it could be an S tier show, but I think because of some of the weird stuff, I didn't always enjoy the Lawson arc and his son's kind of like connection that we had to spend some time on because you knew it was going to be a short season, so you wanted every single scene to matter. However, it's really good. I'm glad we're going to get a season 2. Even though I had that criticism, don't think I'm dogging on the show. It's an A tier for a reason. Vader is, of course, once again, just phenomenal when he's there. Doesn't even say a word, but it's just phenomenal. And so I think it's definitely going to be an A tier. Lastly, we have the most recent Star Wars project, The Mandalorian and Grogu. This movie has gotten a lot of hate. I've even dropped a review for it that you can see in the link below, and it will pop up here on the screen as well. But I think it got too much hate. I think people had an expectation that it was going to set up the next Star Wars event, that it was going to show stuff for the future. And Jon Favreau made it very clear from the very beginning that it was never intending to be that kind of film. They just wanted to make a good Mandalorian and Grogu movie, a good story, a standalone story that you could tell. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. And so it had good action scenes. It had a good story. It made sense within the context of its story. I enjoyed seeing Rod of the Hutt come back. I thought Jeremy Allen White did a phenomenal job. So I'm going to put it in A tier. You can hate on it. You can dog on me for it, but I think it deserves to be an A tier. It was a good movie. I enjoyed watching it. So many people try to find reasons to hate it. I had a hard time finding one. I enjoyed watching it. Make sure you guys let me know how you think my list went in the comments below. I know a lot of you will. Before we wrap up this video, I want to make a quick announcement that we have dropped a Star Wars Discord. There'll be a link below, but this is a Discord for all Star Wars fans to be able to participate in. You can play Battlefront, play games, talk about Lego sets, talk about books, movies, comics, all of the things, theories in this Discord. We need to gather Star Wars fans together. So if you love Star Wars or even like Star Wars in any remote way, make sure to join this Discord link below and make sure to invite your friends as well. It's going to be a great time, and this will be the best way to stay intact with some of this content that I'm making and even have a chance to be a part of it. So if you want to be a part of the content we're making here on Outer Rim Media, maybe join the Outer Rim Media team. Joining this Discord is a great first step. So make sure to join. Link in the description below. Thank you guys for checking out this video. Let me know how I did. Leave a like if you enjoy and subscribe for more Star Wars content. And I'll see you guys in the next video. May the Force be with you.